Hey, I'm Tyler, and I'm going to introduce you to DISC and try to talk you into taking the DISC assessment. But what is DISC? Well, first I want you to ask yourself a few questions.
Has this ever happened to you? You're stuck in a meeting with someone that just goes on and on. Or maybe you've been in a meeting with someone answering their questions when suddenly they cut you off. Or perhaps you've been trapped in a conversation with someone roaming all over the map with brilliant, impractical ideas. Have you ever had your inspirational vision rebuffed by a laundry list of minor details and corrections? Why's it gotta be so hard?
Okay, I'm back. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about human interaction, largely focused around communication and working together. But our differences can make it challenging to work together effectively. Human differences can lead to frustration, missteps, and sore feelings. What a shame, and what a waste. As we get to know someone, we learn to interact with them in ways that are effective for that relationship. With some thought, we learn to make things smoother. Perhaps you learn that if you want your boss to read an email, you better IM him at the same time. Or you learn that Gus really doesn't like it when people cut him off, so when he's talking, you decide to let him finish his sentence instead of interjecting that idea that you think is really cool. You learn to accommodate people because it's kind and it's more effective. People are different, but they're also often alike. Have you ever had a strained relationship with someone until you realized that that someone was a lot like this other person that you already know how to deal with effectively, that you know how to be kind to that person? I've found that if I can get to that moment of understanding someone else, then I can immediately start to work better with them. The more you pay attention to the way that different people like to be treated, the better you can work with them. Some people call this the platinum rule. Treat others the way they want to be treated, not the way you want to be treated. Just because people are different doesn't mean that one is good and the other is bad. And the differences I'm talking about aren't always so obvious. Up until now, you've seen me playing caricatures.
Tyler, caricatures are not intended to remind you of actual people or even be realistic at all. Certain tendencies are exaggerated to make differences more obvious and maybe a little funny. Please do not let it hurt your feelers.
For example, here are videos of two top-notch employees answering the same question. We'll only watch them for a few seconds, but that's plenty of time to see how different they are. First, we'll watch David.
All right. Finally, where did you go on your mission?
Boston,
and what was your
Massachusetts.
favorite thing about that place?
Boston, Massachusetts. Wow, favorite thing. I'd never lived there. It was really neat.
Now compare that with John's response.
Last one. Where did you go on your mission? And what was your favorite thing about that place?
So, I went to Mexico, Monterrey, on my mission, and
Again, both of these workers are very effective, but there are some clear differences in how they behave. Which one do you think is more assertive? Did you notice that Dave started answering before Michael could even finish the question, while John let Michael finish and then carefully considered how to start his answer? You might conclude from these brief videos that David has no problem with you interrupting him as long as you'll bear with him as he carries on a fast-paced repartee. However, it would be considerate to let John finish his sentences.
Now we come to DISC, a tool for understanding how other people work. DISC is the product of hundreds of clinical interviews and over 85 years of work by physiological and industrial psychologists.
Like other personality tests, DISC has a test that you can take to identify things that are key to how you work with others. Unlike other tests, there is an enormous body of knowledge around DISC that tells you how you can take your score and immediately improve how you work with other people.
The easy wins in the beginning have to do with paying attention to the things you do naturally that might annoy or frustrate other people, or otherwise sabotage your own success. Over time, as you become more familiar with DISC, it becomes easier to see how others want to be treated and how you can accommodate them.
Of course, there are several things DISC can't do. It can't boil all people down to a small number of categories. Every person is unique. And practicing DISC skills can't eliminate conflict, but it can improve the quality of our conversations, even when the stakes are high and problems abound.
Dennis has clearly called out poor communication as the department's #1 problem. DISC can help you make each communication more effective by giving you insight into your own tendencies and the needs of your audience.
At the heart of DISC are these two behavior continuums. The first is how people naturally prefer to communicate. Are they assertive or more reserved? Assertive people are more willing to cut you off in the middle of a sentence, but a really reserved person might let you go on and on even if you're not being productive or on topic. The second continuum deals with how people naturally understand work. Do they emphasize tasks or people? Of course, everyone understands that tasks don't do themselves, and people sitting inert in a room won't change anything. But when you give a person a problem, some will immediately start listing tasks in their mind, while others will reach for their address book. When you take your own assessment, you can learn more about these continuums. If you stand the reserved assertive communication continuum on its end and cross the two, then you create a space with 4 quadrants. This is where DISC gets its name. The top left corner is for D, dominance. These are the assertive, task-oriented folks. One good thing about these people is they are decisive. However, they can be jerks at times, cutting you off and barking orders. The top right corner is I, for influence. These are the assertive, people-oriented folks. One good thing about these people is they are friendly and inspiring. However, their focus on the big picture makes some people take everything they say with a grain of salt. The bottom right corner is S, for steadiness. These are the reserved, people-oriented folks, and you want these people on your team because when you're in a jam, they will care and rally behind you. However, they can be difficult to persuade to support a change. The bottom left corner is C, for conscientious. These are the reserved, task-oriented folks. One good thing about these people is how effective they are at making sure things get done right. However, sometimes they struggle letting the small things slide, letting technicalities trump total value.
That was a whirlwind tour of the 4 quadrants of DISC, and I'm going to stop myself there, kind of hold back, because right now you don't know where you fit in on this map, even though some of you probably have a hunch. What you really have to do next is take the assessment. Once you've taken the assessment, all of this is going to start making more sense to you. But wait, are you still not convinced? Perhaps you think to yourself, I don't need all of this self-knowledge hooey. I go out, I read some soft skills articles every once in a while, I sharpen the saw. Well, how do you avoid confirmation bias?
The confirmation bias is a well-known psychological process where people tend to collect information that confirms beliefs they already have. Imagine how this affects the way we receive soft skills advice. If you are an assertive person, you may gravitate toward books intended to make you more assertive. If you are a fact-oriented schemer, you may be drawn to books that bolster your already dominant skill.
Maybe you think to yourself, so? I've gotten this far with my crusty exterior or disdain for the details, and I'm doing fine. Well, maybe you are, but wouldn't you like to do better? Let me remind you of a common phrase in organizational behavior that I've heard Dennis drop a few times.
You are perfectly designed to achieve the level of success you have already achieved. If you don't change anything, you probably won't become more successful. In other words, what got you to this level of success won't get you to the next. If you want to do better, you have to do something different, something new, and if you want that to be the right something, then you have to overcome the confirmation bias.
DISC can help. Let me give you a taste of the immediate benefits DISC can give you once you know where you fit. Most of you have a hunch where you are or where others fit on this map. So I'm going to go through each quadrant and just give one suggestion of how a person in that quadrant can immediately be more effective by doing less of what comes naturally to them. Doing less first is the best way to get started because it's easier to hold back on some ineffective things than to learn new behaviors. In the words of Mark Horstman, don't try to do it all at once, just stop being a jerk.
If you are a D, then start out by letting others finish their sentences. Be less anxious in how you talk to people. People will like you more, and you'll get more cooperation. If you're an I, then let others have important ideas. Start out talking a little less, and listening a little more. Resist taking a small problem and turning it into a springboard for a grand new scheme. If you're an S, then let others carry their problems a little more. Allow yourself to have an opinion and trust others to represent their own needs. If you're a C, then let others be right more, even when they technically aren't. Find moments to let go of the fact checker and trust others.
So look back on that advice. Can you see how one man's medicine is another man's poison? What if you're a D, decisive and impatient, and you come across advice intended for an S that says, have an opinion, deliberate less? Well, that will just make things worse for you.
But DISC will help you see where you need to turn the volume down on some behaviors and turn the volume up on others. And it will be advice tailored to you that overcomes confirmation bias. So take the test. There's no cost to you but your time, and it can be the first step on the road to greater success. For instructions on how to take the test and more information on DISC, go to the Confluence page titled DISC, or search Confluence for DISC, or scan this QR code.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. I hope that you found it useful. But if you didn't and you come across me in the hallway, be gentle, please. Bye.